Hey, what's going on, guys? Jake Verdon Tech here, back with another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Alienware AW2521HF gaming monitor. So as you can see, and you've probably seen in the past few videos as this one's been sitting behind me, 3 monitors wasn't enough, so I had to add another one to the equation, but I do have my reasoning for it. So I decided to pick up this monitor mainly for a designated monitor to play my consoles on, and then along with competitive titles on my PC. So I really wanted a monitor that was kind of designated and in a good spot to play some of my consoles. And as I've mentioned in previous videos before, I don't have the best TV setup, and playing it on the ultra wide monitor was okay. Kind of weird because you would get the black bars going on the side, just because the aspect ratio wasn't native to the consoles I'm playing on, being 21:9, and I didn't necessarily want to throw my consoles onto my top monitors there. So that brought me to the idea of getting a higher refresh rate monitor that really knocks out and checks a lot of boxes for me when it comes to gaming on a wide variety of devices. It checks off the boxes as being the most high refresh rate monitor that I have for competitive titles on PC, and it's still a 16:9 aspect ratio 25-inch monitor, which looks really good even though it's 1080p. Pixel density looks great colors. So for console gaming, it also is really good as well. The 240 Hz is definitely overkill for that, even on the next generation consoles. Like, I do have the Series S, and it'll max out at 120 FPS depending on the title that you're playing, but there's plenty of headroom on that particular monitor. But besides the point, it does really well for consoles as well. I definitely wanted to get back into some more competitive titles on PC, and I've been playing all my games on PC on my ultra wide monitor, which has been great. It gives you a really wide field of view, being a 21:9 aspect ratio. But when it comes to those competitive titles, I wanted something, or just to experience something with a little bit higher refresh rate, and something that is a native 16:9 to kind of narrow down the field of vision and just get a little bit more focus when it comes to those competitive titles. But speed and response time and the refresh rate is the big thing I was kind of shooting for when getting a pretty well-rounded monitor that not only, like I mentioned, is for the consoles that I'm going to be playing, but for competitive PC gaming. So when it comes to the competitive titles that I've been playing lately, I've been getting into a lot of just regular multiplayer Call of Duty. Not so much Warzone, but I do touch on it a little bit here and there. But playing multiplayer on 240 Hz feels amazing. Another title I've been getting into is Valorant. I've had a really good time playing that game. The game has a lot of cool maps and is really growing in popularity as far as esports goes. And it's just a really fun game, kind of a next generation game of Counter-Strike. And when it comes to that title, it's definitely all about refresh rate and response time. So high speed monitors like this Alienware AW2521HF is perfect for titles like that, and CSGO, and really any competitive titles that you throw at it. Like I mentioned, this is the Alienware AW2521HF gaming monitor from Alienware. As far as the specs goes, it is a 25-inch panel, 1080p resolution, 240 Hz refresh rate with a 1 millisecond response time. For the panel type, it is IPS, and it does include FreeSync Premium and NVIDIA G-Sync compatibility, making this a pretty stacked gaming monitor. So like I said, this monitor is pretty stacked when it comes to the specs, and for me it really checks off a lot of boxes. Like I mentioned, I am going to be doing some console gaming on this, so it's a really good 1080p experience. The panel's only 25 inches, so the 1080p doesn't look washed out. It still looks extremely sharp just because we have it on a relatively small panel and it's not stretching out those pixels. So everything looks pretty tight and the pixel density looks good. So that's why I'm still a pretty firm believer in 1080p, as I believe if you do have the right panel, it can look so good. And I think this Alienware does a fantastic job of that. So with 240 Hz, this screen is refreshing far more times than something of like 60 Hz or 100 Hz in a certain amount of time. So this display is able to show you way more frames that your PC or device is outputting, opposed to other 60 Hz or 100 Hz or lower refresh rate panels like that. And when it comes to gaming, it is definitely a whole new feel. The games just feel incredible, especially fast-paced games that are a little bit more competitive. The buttery smooth feeling of 240 Hz is just unmatched compared to other monitors. Like I mentioned, this screen is also AMD FreeSync and NVIDIA G-Sync compatible. And for those of you that aren't real familiar on what those are, basically what that does is the hardware inside the display is doing its best to match the output of your PC as far as the frame rate goes. And what that'll do is prevent screen tearing and certain screen artifacts that can happen when your device FPS is out of sync with the refresh rate on your monitor. Another huge advantage to this Alienware AW2521HF is the fact that this is a IPS panel. So the past few years, a lot of high refresh rate panels, when you would get up to 240 Hz, they would mostly be TN panels from what you would see on the market. TN panels are still widely available today. Still, a lot of the faster monitors on the market are TN, but the advancements in the recent technology over the past couple years when it comes to gaming monitors, companies have been able to cram 240 Hz into IPS displays, giving a much better image quality as far as the display goes, as far as the colors, and much better viewing angles. Those were kind of always the downside to TN. The overall display just isn't as good as IPS. Your colors won't be as punchy. The image usually won't be as sharp. And then a lot of times the viewing angles, if you're not looking at the monitor head on, it can be kind of tricky and you can get kind of weird glares if you're viewing it from an angle. So IPS definitely eliminates all of those factors, giving you a much better display quality, and now in 240 Hz and even up to, I think I've seen 360 Hz. So IPS on this monitor is a huge W. As far as the cosmetics go of this monitor, I think Alienware did a really good job on this monitor compared to the previous iterations they've had. The previous iteration they had was a TN panel, so upgrading the IPS is huge. But they've changed a lot as far as the overall stand and overall look of the monitor and some of its features. We have a updated stand for this monitor that isn't as obtrusive as previous Alienware monitors, but it's still pretty good size. But I managed to fit my 60% keyboard and my mouse no problem and have plenty of room, so it's not as bad as the previous ones that they've had on the market as far as the stand being pretty good in size. But if you are working with a smaller desk, this could be an issue. The stand also has really nice cable management pass-throughs for your power cable, DisplayPort, and HDMI cables that you might be running. And the stand does have RGB that illuminates, along with the Alienware logo on the back corner of the monitor, which can be adjusted to the Alien Effects lighting settings on the monitor. As far as menu options go on a monitor, it's pretty extensive. As I mentioned, it does have the Alienware Effects lighting, which you could adjust the RGB with, but it also gives you a wide variety of different game settings and image settings. I've left this thing pretty stock out of the box. I haven't touched a whole lot of the settings and pretty much just let it run at 240 Hz. But there are some different presets you can use as far as the display goes and what type of image and colors that you'd like to see. But a lot of these settings I've just left at the factory default and pretty much have just ran with it out of the box the way it comes. And the performance and image quality is just really good. So that is going to wrap up this video, guys. I just wanted to make this video just talking about this particular gaming monitor from Alienware, as I've really enjoyed gaming on it so far. And I think this one might be kind of overlooked as far as the other monitor options out there on the market. And especially being 1080p, I think a lot of people discount that. But 1080p, in my opinion, is still a really good gaming experience, especially at 240 Hz. And with this display being 25 inches, the image quality looks phenomenal. And I think my biggest selling point for this monitor, or what sold me on it, is the fact that it gives you the 240 Hz refresh rate, a 1 millisecond response time, and that is all done on an IPS display, which just makes the overall viewing and gaming experience just so much better when it comes to the image quality. So when it comes to choosing a gaming monitor, there is definitely a lot of options out there when it comes to different specs, but I think a lot of it depends on the types of games you're going to be playing, what devices you're going to be gaming with, whether it's your PC, next gen console, previous gen console, or whatever the case may be. It is definitely a factor. But in my opinion, I think this is probably one of the best monitors for a really solid 1080p experience that gives you high refresh rate and a low response time. So that's going to close out this one, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully if you are in the market for a gaming monitor and are kind of looking over reviews, hopefully this helped you out a little bit and gave you some insight on the Alienware AW2521HF. If you liked the video, make sure to drop a like on it, and if you want to see more tech related videos like this one, be sure to subscribe. As always, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.